Certainly we're seeing in our data is that over the last 2 years in particular, customer journeys have been getting extended on, but more umming and ahhing and people having less kind of urgency to act. Has that changed the way that you kind of coach your sales network and how to bring that urgency when sometimes there isn't underlying urgency, I guess?
Look, the market's changed enormously with COVID increasing interest rates, and there's a longer sales journey because people don't know where they want to buy. They might think they want to buy, they're worried about finance, they're worried about interest rates, they're worried about an economy, they're worried about the war in Ukraine, they're worried about everything. So they tend to be more nervous, and something where you buy off the plan and you're not sure where you'll be at in 12 months or 2 years, if you're not confident about what's going on in the economy, you take much longer time to make a decision. So I think the market, the time frame of buyers buyers will be buying a lot shorter time frame as we see interest rates come down, and particularly as the shortage of stock bites more and more, where they looking and they seeing that they come back to look at something and they've missed out. So I think the market sort of goes in cycles as such, and then with how we deal with that with the sales people, we've got a terrific CRM system, and we're constantly in touch with our purchasers, and we try and identify those that are maybe buyers, like qualifying purchasers, are those that have just looked to those that have a high chance of purchasing, and we're in touch with them constantly.
In terms of those types of databases, I know CBRE's got a very large engaged database that you guys work with and a key part of the value prop. How do you think about kind of communicating to those guys to kind of find who the buyers are and then using your communication strategy to identify the hot ones?
Well, Mei-Ling helps us a lot there. So, but what we have a process. We qualify all of our buyers, and we put a grading beside them as to their likelihood of purchasing and likelihood where they see the right property or ability to buy. So and then we've got a follow-up system, if you'd like, or program around our follow-up. But we're very big believers on phone calls, just talking to buyers, talking about their needs. So we've got set phone call sessions in the office. All the salespeople participate in it. They see the value out of it. They get appointments out of it. Appointments, we say more calls, more sales. More appointments, more sales. But the other bigger thing is just the changes in social media and reach, like looking at how you can target individual buyers groups with offerings of interest that isn't necessarily direct. And what we have seen is EDMs have been, well, we used to send out an EDM and we could get 2,000 inquiries. Now, if we've got 500, that's a great result. Your buyers aren't responding to EDMs like they used to be. It's more social media, it's more prep work before you send an EDM that, I'll say, gets them a little bit excited to inquire. So lots of changes. But your database, we sell, 40-50% of our sales are to our database. Most of them come in the early stage of a project launch. So the value that adds and the time frame in speeding up sales to allow construction to start is of enormous value. So we do a lot of work in managing our database.
And I think just on the media mix that goes into play there in that time frame, as Dave alluded to, it's not just the paid media, it's the whole media mix there. And I think organic, social and content has a much stronger part to play in both selling the project but also marketing the developer. And I think it helps to fill in the gaps between the paid media moments. And I think we've had a lot of clients who are focused on last click attribution models, and I think we're moving them towards really looking at the whole customer journey. And through the technology that we employ, we're able to see impressions and the impact impressions have, as well as the final click that converts to a lead.
Yeah, also I know both of your companies are kind of like always have that customer focus. I don't know how many times I've called you, Dave, and said, what can I be doing for you at the moment? And you say, the thing you can be doing for me is the thing you can do for my customer. And I reckon you've told me that about 50 times in terms of just like trying to funnel that activity back and trying to help those projects out. Seeing how projects are changing. What are the key changes you've seen in terms of marketing, say from 3 or 4 years ago relative to today?
I think for us, obviously digital has been the area that shifted the most, and even though that journey started a lot longer ago, the speed at which it's changing now has been rapid. I think our clients now have access to a greater amounts of data, although what comes with that is the challenge of aggregating it and making it useful and being able to draw business intelligence out of that. And that has been really time consuming for media agencies and for developers to be able to aggregate all of that data in one place. So that's something that we've invested in significantly over the last 12 months. And I think that's enabling us to make smarter choices. Justin talked about the time frame increasing. It doesn't necessarily mean that the marketing budgets are increasing, so we need to get smarter with how we're using those budgets, and that can come down to using data effectively. I think the other thing that we've seen, which the guys alluded to, was the power of the developer brand. And that's not just from the major developers within the industry, it's also for all of the smaller developers. So the amount of content that we're developing, the transparency of seeing the developer in the marketing collateral, understanding the ICERT rating, understanding who the builder is, all of those things have become increasingly important.
And if you look back, say, 5 years ago, what would have been the ratio of offline media to online media? And then what would you say it is today?
I think it would have been like 70-30. And now we would see, even across CBRE's campaigns, predominantly digital. Yeah.
In a way, definitely. And the big change we've seen is just the increase in inquiry we're generating out of social media. And like we're now generating only 50% of our inquiries from social media, which is a huge change. And if you go back and graph it to sort of 5 years ago, it's probably 10%.
And how do you find, I think, with the social media stuff, I think some of the rhetoric in the market has been that the lead quality is lower. Have you seen that kind of change over time? Is it still a volume game? And how do you kind of deal with a larger volume of inquiry like that?
Well, we want large volumes and good quality. So we want both. I think what happens is you get smarter at the material how you're advertising, that you're appealing to the right buyer, and I think that's back to the data sets that you match up with, that you're really targeting or more targeted in your audience. So rather than just spending money out there promoting, it really is to particular buyer groups.
And then on the sales side, so we've seen there's been emerging technology and stuff on the sales side. Have you seen, is that stuff making a real impact, or is it the kind of same fundamental things that have always made projects successful, salespeople successful? Is that still the same today?
I think we use technology a lot more in our sales presentation, but I think it's still there's a sales track or a process with buying off plan. But I think there's so much better quality graphics and projects are so much more sophisticated and provide much more amenity and have much better design aspects. You've got to be able to demonstrate that really well. And then again, when you're talking into a story about a developer and you're saying, here's what they've done, existing video, testimonials, it's all taken on a sort of a much higher quality. And so using technology to show that, I think, is very important. And also a little bit of pre-selling, in a sense, where we're using technology at times to, we get a buyer, we might be having an appointment, we'll make them aware of the developer and what they're looking at, or a little bit of detail before they come to the display, so they'll know, particularly where it's a good quality developer with a great track record, they've seen that video or that history before they come, so hopefully a little bit more informed about the property.
And do you find the way that, because obviously you guys are running a large sales team, is the way that you coach the sales team changed at all? So in terms of the sequencing as far as how you sell, is it the team and then the product and then the price, or is that sequence kind of largely the same, or has it changed?
I'll say this here, but it's a bit of an in-house joke. We call it the 2 carrot theory, but I won't share it. No, I think buyers want more information when they come to buy and inquire, and so the salesperson has to be more familiar with the developer, more knowledge on the project. Why will they buy this project over something else? What is the ICERT rating? What's the Builders Trust Index? We've now got the insurance that's coming in, so what's the benefit of that to buyers? And all of those things I saw earlier, your comment about, or the research about buyers worried about the quality of the developer or the quality of the construction. We've got very good clients who are working for Daycorp. We're doing the most work for, and first and foremost, we're selling the qualities of the developer, and they're delivering their own product. And the increased confidence that gives buyers in their decision-making process is it's huge difference. So we find where we can demonstrate the qualities of the developer and builder, we get much more higher sales rate. And again, the salesperson knows they have to be able to do that. And so, more skilled, more knowledge.
And then for the marketing side, like I know in the past with social media in particular, it was mostly focused on the renders. Has that changed in terms of the relationship between developer brand, track record, project pricing? Has the sequence of how you serve those ads to the users changed as well?
I don't think so. I think it comes down to what's the point of difference in the project, and whether that's views, the design, or the location. I think really honing in on that and making sure that that's core to the comm strategy that's going out. But I guess one of the biggest differences that we've seen, certainly on the performance when we layer in first-party data, is the need for more visual, more video content. And that's not just what we typically get when we're just the media agency, which is the hero video, project video edited to 30 seconds, and then we're meant to serve that. That's actually fit for purpose creative. And so what we need there is 6 second, 15 second, 30 second, and all of that creative to support the targeting that's been put together, and any of the customer overlays that we've added to really make sure that that spend is as efficient as it can possibly be.
And in terms of, you would, I'm sure, inherited a lot of customers over time from different groups. What are some of the things, if developers are kind of feeling a little bit unsure about who they're working with at the moment, what are some common red flags that you would suggest they be aware of and watch out for that kind of indicate that maybe they're not working with the appropriate partner?
Dave Milton?
So that's the developer you're talking about.
I'm talking about with the like marketing and media agencies.
What are
the red flags?
I don't know if there's necessarily red flags. I think everyone has their strengths and have different platforms that they use. But I think something that we're focused on, as I alluded to earlier, is being able to simplify the data aggregation. And a lot of the publishers previously weren't providing APIs to all of the products that we're buying. And so the ability to really test performance effectively and quickly and be able to be responsive was more challenging. So I think for us, I guess our point of difference is that we're working right across the media mix. So because we need to be more responsive, we need to be able to change up the creative, we need to be able to see what's happening in the performance metrics and be able to adjust that. And when we're bouncing back and forth between creative or content agency, etc., it starts to take a lot longer.
I'll say we see a red flag, and the first one is the quality of the CGIs. When a developer comes in and presents, and they present something in a pretty ordinary fashion, and they're thinking that's how they want to be selling it, that's a warning.
And this is on the developer side?
On the developer side, yeah.
Yeah.
Or even an advertising agency or any other creative people that we come in and they don't understand the difference between a much higher quality presentation. It's just, you got problems straight away. It generally feeds from budgets with developers where they just haven't budgeted sufficient amounts for marketing and preparation and material and so on.
And same question, because I think, as many people in the room know, there's a broad spectrum in terms of the quality of the outcome consumers will expect, and just quality of operators can vary greatly across the country. Who are the types of developers and architects and partners that you're kind of focused on partnering with, and why is that?
Fortunately, we've been in the market a long time, so most of our clients are well-experienced developers. Most we have an existing relationship, or they come as partners of other developers. So I think we've been very fortunate in that respect. There's not sort of too many new entrants or new parties in the market that we're working with. So we're very particular too about the quality of client. I mean, the market's changed completely, and you damage your own reputation when you're selling poor product or it's not delivered in the way it should be. And there's developers that we've worked with sort of 5-6 years ago that we wouldn't work with today, because just you experience all sorts of problems when you get a problem with a development. You even lose salespeople because the buyers ring up the salespeople saying this is a problem and the rest of it. So very, very conscious about who we do work for.
And how about for you, when you think about which developers you want to work for? Because we, as I said before, right at the start of the presentation, is that we all get tired when a development goes poorly and the builder goes poorly. It's bad for Metropolis, it's bad for CBRE, it's bad for Urban, it's bad for everyone. How do you think about kind of finding the right partner and kind of checking that out?
I think we have been lucky too in terms of the developers that we work with. We're probably focused on a partnership approach, typically working with developers who have multiple projects as opposed to just focusing on winning a project. It enables us to go much deeper rather than focusing on going wide and working with everyone. And I guess a good credit insurance approval process really helps in the media business too.
In terms of the buyer mix, we were talking before about the Indian market, the kind of Southeast Asian Chinese market. How do you think about kind of approaching each of those segments, and does that change your messaging, and how do you think about that?
For us, when we're working with our clients, and particularly we're seeing that in House and Land, so we've got segments that might be targeted towards Indian buyers, as much as we've got segments for some of our apartment projects targeting Chinese buyers. So we're looking at who are those buyers, how they behave, how they act, what media do they consume, how do we interact and how do we share that content in their environments. And again, how do we make sure that that content is fit for purpose for the channels in which we're buying it, as opposed to maybe taking creative that's prepared for one publisher and just resizing it for the next. So I think when we do that segmenting, it's super important to make sure that carries right through the strategy in terms of the creative and the messaging.
Yeah, I think that's more attracting the buyers. You're doing a lot more on social media to the relevant target audience. Just from the point we've got a really broad ethnicity mix of salespeople, so I think we try and cater for a broad market, and I think that's always been a strong point in our business. And we're following trends, like we've seen a lot more Filipino buyers buying out in the northwest area, so we're doing a lot more towards targeting that market for that area. Just, you've seen the data come in, who's looking, who's buying. And the other big thing is the sales team are looking for referrals and recommendations all the time. And to get that, they've got to have a good relationship with the party they've sold to and built rapport and trust. So that's a big source of sales and sort of reaching into certain communities more deeply.
It makes sense. And I think there's still a bit of uncertainty in the market. So I think parts of the market are kind of performing better than others in terms of segments, locations, states, etc. What are the types of signals that you're looking for when a developer comes and asks you, is now the right time to launch a project? And how do you kind of give them the most accurate view of that? And what are the signals you're looking for?
We've had a number of projects coming to market just after Easter. This year's been a little bit of a slower start with launches because of the short period to Easter, but more about the quality of the development. Is the market there for it? Is it priced at a point that we can get sales? Justin spoke earlier about, and E1 about increasing costs, and we are always lifting prices. That's one thing we've got to be doing all the time, but there's got to be some likelihood of achieving prices in the first instance. So, and where people are getting the most gains in pricing is where they're planning a better development, that the buyer walks and say, we can sell the attributes better, and we can say, you can buy the same size unit next door or here, but this is what the extras are. Is that worth the extra money? So I think that you'll see an increasing number of projects come to market where the developer has confidence they can actually lock in a build price. And that's probably the biggest issue. There's a lot of developers that are sitting on sites that aren't builders, still need a higher level of pre-sales. And I think that given the time frame for pre-sales to construction start, they're the ones that are most cautious in this market.
And I think for us, it's more, are they ready? From a marketing perspective, do they have the strategy planned out beyond the launch? Do we know how the message is going to change? Are we ready to pivot when we see how the market responds? So making sure that things are ready on time, and we all know that typically requires CGIs to be ready on time. And so often our timing for being ready to go is having all of that collateral ready and planned.
And with the collateral being ready and the messaging, not every project gets off to a flying start, unfortunately. How quickly do you kind of begin reassessing either the messaging, sales, or marketing strategy? Do you give it a month? Do you give it a couple of months? What is it that you're looking for from the market to say that you haven't quite hit the nail on the head and you need to redesign the project or redesign the strategy in some way?
You'd have to ask our competitors about that one. That's not CVs. Sorry.
I think we've seen from some developers maybe not to react too quickly. Like, we need time to see how the data performs and how the campaign performs, and to hear feedback from the sales team on what they're hearing in market. And if you've done your job right, typically you're able to move forward with your strategy. But sometimes, for a myriad of reasons, maybe a project doesn't get the response that's expected. And so I think having partners around you who are listening and who are able to respond quickly in a measured way is super important when you find yourself in that position.
If you had a magic wand and you could wave it and have a project anywhere you like, and that can be a location or a market segment investor, v first home buyer, for example, what type of project would it be, and what would the ideal location of it be?
Sydney, water views, uninterrupted, something unique. Always gets our team excited. I think we're working on a project with Aberdeen at the moment in Putney, and that's got our team really excited. It's got all the makings of a place, a destination, beautiful homes. It's got everything to work with, and so that typically gets us pretty excited in terms of what we can create and the campaign that we can launch.
It's a hard one because we've launched quite a few, but I think that the best thing, and what we see, and I see it with the directors and the team, it's just working with when you've got a great client to work with, someone that wants to deliver the best outcome, wants their buyers to have a great experience, and is a good to work with. So that's probably the thing that I like the most, great clients.
And obviously, I presented some data before around consumer trust and builders. And this is kind of my last question for the day, but I just wanted to know, if you had one piece of advice as far as communicating that trust, how do you do that effectively whether it's through the sales process, messaging, media? What is it that kind of can help us as an industry to kind of rebuild the trust of the consumer and support the kind of unlocking of supply?
I think it's pretty straightforward, and I'd use Daycorp here as an example. If you talk to Fuad, he talks about the quality of what he's going to deliver. They stand behind it. They advertise or promote heavily that he's got the same licence he started with 24 years ago, and they take responsibility for any issues that there may be. But ideally, there's minimal issues because they address them through their construction and I'll say experience. So when buyers inquire, the buyers that are very interested, you might get 70 email inquiries and there's 2 or 3 real buyers for the project. Those 2 or 3 that are interested, they go from the website straight to the developer's website. That's what we find. So not the high 70%, but the ones that are really interested. So it's top of mind in buyers' mind for them to make sure they're coming to look at something that they know is being delivered by a reputable builder developer. So it looks, in a sense, getting everything prepared online, having your history there, being able to talk about your company values and about your track record, I think is really critical, not just in the website of the development, because that's about advertising the development. The buyers want to go a bit further and say, okay, who are you? Who are your staff? Who are your delivery team? What experience do you have?
And I second that, but also then carrying it through all of the phases of the funnel and the customer journey. So utilising all of your owned, earned and paid media channels to make sure that you're pushing that message out there and drawing them back to your either the developer website or the development website itself. I think putting the developer in the creative and in the video content is helpful, and it enables the buyers to build trust and have that relationship.
I think it's a really good point. Like, buyers want to see who they're buying off and want to know that they're standing behind their project. So them being front and centre and saying, this, I'm delivering it for you, is just so critical.
I completely agree, and I think we're trying to encourage that more and more, developers being front and centre, standing by the projects they're doing, and I think that can contribute to some of the consolidation, but also some amazing kind of like high quality developments to be built. So thank you two very much. We've got drinks package in the room for till 3 o'clock, so enjoy it.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks very much.
Guys.